And we've got a big one today, folks, coming to you from Barstool Sports. Hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake, and YouTube perhaps bringing justice in one of the most bizarre ways we've ever seen. Nick Shirley? No, this guy is a whole different level of cray-cray. Robbie Fox writing it, lawsuits, arrests, swatting, and more inside the Lego Star Wars scandal rocking the world right now. And it really is. And you can see here, we could click on these. They would start videos. They would play them. But let's tell you about it. The Reckless Ben Lego story is the most outrageous case of police corruption I've ever seen.
What?
It is. It's
quite the
bizarre.
headline.
The entire police department of American Fork, which I didn't know there was a city named Fork, but I congratulate you. I just want to know who it is that arrived there and said, we're going to take on the city of Spoon next door. It's a city of 30K, comprised and being used as a private militia for bricks and minifigs to harass and arrest plaintiffs. All right, what is bricks and minifigs? Well, it's a Lego group. Here, we'll read it to you. The bricks and minifigs Reckless Ben Lego Star Wars scandal is the biggest story in the nerd world right now, and one of the biggest stories on the internet, period. Jack Mack sent me an article about it the other day, and I had been seeing the headlines, but didn't really dive in too deep at that point. It seemed like it was gaining a lot of traction very quickly, though, so I decided to check out the videos on Reckless Ben's YouTube page, and I was captivated by the whole situation immediately. Here's the rundown. Brian Mansell's elderly father spent years building an absolutely enormous Star Wars Lego collection, reportedly worth $200,000. He contacts the Lego third-party resale chain Bricks and Minifigs about selling the collection when his father's health took a turn for the worse, and the family needed money to help. The collection is placed on consignment with a Bricks and Minifigs franchise in Salem, Keizer, Oregon, where under the alleged agreement, the store can sell items and take a commission, but ownership remains with the Mansell family until individual items are sold, meaning they could get it back if they wanted to. Here's where the stuff starts. The owner of the Bricks and Minifigs store that Brian was working with allegedly reached out to corporate, let them know she was moving out of the country and wouldn't be able to run the store anymore, and they told her they had found a buyer to take it over, before sending someone to terminate their agreement and then literally kick her out of the store. They threatened to call the police if she didn't leave, wouldn't let her finish inventory. She brought up that Brian hadn't been paid for a number of sets yet, and they basically told her that's none of your business anymore, and that the consignment would be carried over.
Right.
This apparently is all on security footage.
On video, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, all on footage. Brian then reached out to a few people to get the word out when the Bricks and Minifigs ignored all contact from him, and eventually the story got to this guy, Reckless Ben, who may be a little bit on the cray-cray side. He's got 1 million subs on YouTube, but he's a different kind of fella. Ben goes to the store. Reckless Ben goes to the store. YouTuber, kind of like Nick Shirley, but not, well, a little bit more zany. Goes to not a Leering Center, but the store in Oregon where they sell the Legos, and says he's there to pick up his friend's sets for him, and it gets uncomfortable. The manager calls the cops on Ben, tells him to take it up with corporate, which he's already tried to do, yada, yada, yada. The bottom line is, this has now exploded, folks. You can go read everything that's happened here, and it is nuts. It is crazy. He's run a lottery. He's put up stores on the sidewalk outside like lemonade stands, trying to get the Legos back for these people. And what's wild is this is actually transmogrified into something now that is rising to the level of mass conspiracy police corruption, perhaps. So Marcus Pittman is covering this. Says, let's get these D-bags off his property. Oops, probably shouldn't have said that. More crazy Lego scandal body cam footage from the American Fork Police Department. I got to play this, and I'll tell you why this really actually matters a lot. And it really, really does. Here's some of the footage.
Congo. Hey, come here. Do you remember we were doing Hydra with the guy with the deagle? Huh? Remember when we did Hydra with the guy with the Desert Eagle? Yeah. This is his Airbnb. He's in my truck right now. Really? And that's all right. Yeah. And I told people that. He was like, what the f***? That's so funny. Detectives are going to have Orem come and look at these guys to see, because they have video surveillance of all their guys. So we'll keep them on ice until we can start stripping resources. But it sounds like the other shifts rolled in. They're starting to take calls.
Which is good.
Okay.
We'll make sure everything's cleared up.
Yeah, it was great. And the fact that they were coming out when we were walking up. The main kid had his phone recording, so I shut it off. But
Let me point out what's going on here.
Please.
This is they're in an Airbnb while they're in the area. Ben Schneider, Reckless Ben, is, I believe, from Los Angeles, or that's his last known address. I think he's actually in Mexico at the moment. So maybe Nat, look out, be on the lookout.
Can find him
if you've got any Legos.
Be on the lookout.
So they're staying in this Airbnb, and while they're in the Airbnb, they get swatted. Because they said, oh, well, somebody said you actually had the stolen Legos at your house. These Legos that have absconded into I don't know where. And they're also saying that they've heard reports that the Legos are just at one of their facilities. So they raid the house. They handcuff all of these, I'll say kids. They're young men. And I think maybe some process server that got tied up in all of this was there at the moment because she wasn't allowed to serve a warrant. This is in addition to, like, they searched his vehicle for 3 hours because someone accused them of having drugs in the vehicle. They drug tested. All the people found nothing on them. There's this disagreement with the Lego company here, not the Lego company, but this company that does franchises that buy, sell, and trade Legos. But then there's this absolutely bizarre situation where the police department believes every word that Bricks and Minifigs says and believes absolutely none of this. So there's no moment in which they say you need to settle this by a mediator. Every single time one of these things happens, it goes brutally in favor of Bricks and Minifigs, and there's a lot of police intervention to the point where it looks like intimidation by the police force, as if, I don't know if they got nothing to do. I don't know if this is just something where, somebody's up for re-election and Bricks and Minifigs is going to be the biggest donor to somebody's a police ball or something. I don't know. But this video keeps coming out. They originally requested body cam footage of all of the officers during these arrests, and everything was redacted. They even challenged the lady who did the redacting of the footage. Says, no, we don't take things out just because it's unfavorable to our things. It's to protect. And as well, the unredacted footage is now out there, and they're literally just they're working with the other people to try to come up with charges to use against Ben Schneider and his crew.
So let me bring this home as to why it matters, because, we would not cover here if there was some sort of Beanie Baby scandal. We just don't do this kind of stuff. But here's the problem. Here's what's so amazing is that this story, which is weird and bizarre, a YouTuber, the new media descends down into this bizarre situation, and everybody in power, the police, the city, the people redacting the stuff, they apparently believed that they could just intimidate and shove, allegedly, and that has backfired tremendously, and it's showing off the power of the internet, where this story about Legos that would, normally not rise to this level, because of the unbelievable response to it and the belief that they were so much bigger than a silly YouTuber, they're finding out otherwise. I want to play this video, and then I'll get the panel's thoughts on all of this, the $200,000 that the family has lost in Legos, which really we can kind of translate it over to $200,000 of health care and assistance for an elderly man that's not being, paid back. But because it's Legos, well, here we are. But here we have the police in one of these cities. I think this is actually, we're going to switch to a different city. I think this is Oregon now, or Utah, whichever the case may be, where the police talk directly to the CEO of the company, and they do the bidding of the CEO. Here we go.
Again, this is Hammond.
CEO is on the phone, by the way.
Corporate office.
Who's the CEO?
Oh, hi. So what's happened is we had a former franchisee that entered into an invalid consignment agreement with a completely separate person. That person sold their Lego sets and didn't pay the person that they entered. And this has nothing to do with Mr. Schneider. Mr. Schneider is just a YouTuber that got a hold of the story and then went to this guy and said, hey, if I can harass these guys and if I can do some stuff and get some money out of them, will you pay me some of that money? And that's what they're trying to do.
This is conjecture, by the way.
The individual who actually owes the money.
But telling the police this about the YouTuber who's there trying to, one would suppose, bring justice for this, but also get a lot of views. But yes, maybe conjecturing to the police to get them to take an action because they believe this is true.
Also, the consignment agreement is valid, it sounds like. So
right.
They were one of our franchisees. They were terminated as a franchisee for violating all sorts of rules. They then fled to Europe somewhere. And so we've been trying to deal with this situation. We've been trying to help the person up in Oregon, but because we found out later that they've been all working together to try and force some money out of us. So we've had our attorneys working on it. We've been in contact with the Marion County Sheriff's Department, the Marion County District Attorney, the Kaiser, and this is all up in Oregon. And then they started flying down here, coming to our corporate offices, and now they're heading to our staff and other individuals' personal residences to just harass and continue to try and extort money out of them. And so there's a...
So let me just, maybe we'll come back to this in a second, but I just want to say, so the claim is because the poor elderly man can't get paid the $200,000 he's owed, the way the CEO handles this is to tell the police that there's a conspiracy extortion attempt being driven by the YouTuber. Jonas, that doesn't seem to be true, right?
Right. And I get it that a YouTube video investigation doesn't have the same level as a court filing, but it seems like this guy is using the entertainment aspect, say more than a Nick Shirley would, in doing an investigation. So there's a lot of, let me do this in the most hilarious way possible instead of, okay, well, we're just trying to expose you. But also it really feels like, and I'm using the word feel instead of allegedly, it really feels like they've taken these Legos and they maybe kind of took the store with a little bit more force than they should have, and they're refusing to pay out. I don't know that there's 200,000 due at this point. It may be more like 5,000, but their absolute refusal and the posturing that they've done to say, well, you're going to have to sue us to get them. And it seemed like they were trying to bait them into a lawsuit because they knew that would be a massive expenditure for this guy who's trying to pay his father's medical expenses, his aging father's medical expenses. So it's just disappointing to see people do business that way. And then on top of it, you have this, I don't think they could have counted on the exposure of the police department in American Forks, making them all look like if Barney Fife was trying to do The Sopranos.
Well, more like if Barney Fife was in the mafia. Nat, let me go to you. I think part of what we're learning right now is that there are some really corrupt places all over the world, of course, but there's some small towns in small town USA. And when YouTube descends upon them, they don't know what to do now. And I am loving this new era of body cams and cell phones everywhere. And when a YouTuber comes down and just starts a little parody lemonade stand, they can't handle it. And they go into, bully mode, and that is just Barbara Streisanding them. So Nat, is this more than just a little Lego story? Do you think that we're reaching a point now where every small corrupt town has to say, whoa, we don't want to be put out there like this Fork town?
Or maybe they just should stop doing corruption. But within small microcosms, it's a lot easier, I think, to be able to hide those kinds of things because everybody knows each other. So you don't want to get in trouble with the neighbor instead of when it becomes a wider thing or when it's a bigger city. I think it's easier to hide it coming from Mexico City, I would know. But also with the YouTube thing, I was thinking as you were going over the story, it's interesting how in certain places, YouTube still doesn't seem big. Or like if you say, I do YouTube, then it seems like people think, a few of her mom watches her and nobody else. And like, they're just doing it as a hobby. And we're still kind of going through the process of legitimizing, in a way, YouTube, but with things like Nick Shirley, but also, for example, like it or not, what happened there, but with Britney Spears, all that campaign basically took form and shape online. I was just going over a few of the details the other day, looking at the history of how it happened, and when it was a lot to do with YouTube and other legal cases as well. So I think it's being taken not as seriously when it does have an impact and an effect, and it also, I think, helps people feel like they're participating and doing something themselves as well, because it's still a smaller social media platform, but it's the biggest one.
That is a phenomenal point. Paul, I want to hand that to you because I bet you that these little towns would respond differently if the local news channel showed up, or maybe not that, because maybe they have control of that, but maybe if a neighboring town's journalist showed up, they would act differently than if the YouTuber with 1 million subs shows up. But the problem is that the YouTuber with 1 million subs is way more powerful than a little, local investigator. And Paul, I'll give you another example of this. We just found this out. I did not know until we did the research. Paul, you're familiar with FNT Friday Night Tights over on Nerdrotic.
Vaguely.
Yeah. But
I don't like associating with them.
So, Paul, we found out that in the demo, right? So the 25 to 55 demo, that Friday Night Tights is pulling a larger number of viewers than Fox News in primetime. Wow. Fox News in primetime is pulling, it was like 205,000 people on average, and FNT and their episodes are pulling about 215 in the demo. So, wow. Paul, I don't think people have caught up to, if the YouTuber with 1 million subs shows up to your small town to do something, it's a big deal. And I don't think they understood that. I think that's what part of the undercurrent of this story should be.
Well, it's not just an individual with a large following. If you latch onto a story, you know very well that even a 1,000 subscriber YouTuber can get hundreds of thousands of views.
Right.
And it's really about initiative, not the number of subscribers you have. And depending on the story, as we all know, it can be lightning in a bottle.
It really, really can. Paul, when do you think we're going to get to the point where people recognize YouTube as the dominant force that it is? I mean, YouTube is bigger than Disney Plus. It's bigger than Netflix. And in fact, it's way, way bigger. And I don't think people have caught on. I don't think people view, Dude Perfect and Mr. Beast and All In Podcast and all this stuff that's really taking off on YouTube. I don't think they view it in the same way that they would movie stars and celebrities. And maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. What do you think about that people are misconstruing where we are as a society and where the true engine of our culture might be?
Well, my point is, my view on that is that YouTube has become kind of ubiquitous and almost like water. I don't think people think of it as special anymore, if at all. I read a statistic that 60% of YouTube viewers are watching it on their large screens now.
Sure.
They're watching it like TV.
Yep.
I think when I turn on YouTube compared to Netflix or any of the streaming services, we are generally finding more things of interest on YouTube.
By far, I think.
It's one of those serendipity engines. And so you can find an archaeology show that my wife and I really, really enjoy. So I think we're just at the beginning of YouTube being a source of legitimate news.
And that's really saying something if we're just at the beginning, because it's already this powerful.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
I have a question for you guys.
It's too bad Nick Shirley was not more articulate as an individual. He stumbles way too much, and he's very difficult to listen to. But
he's also very young.
And
what, 20, 21?
Yeah.
I want to go with this. Do you feel like people would take these YouTube journalists more seriously if they were older, or if they're only writing them off because they're younger?
Well, this is a funny thing. If you haven't seen the videos that are on Reckless Ben's channel, there is so much about what he's doing that is put together with entertainment and I'll say more of a Mr. Beast style. There's probably within YouTube that's not a clear enough distinction, but he gets a small legal victory or something that he portrays as a legal victory, and he goes up to quote unquote claim the Legos, and he shows up and he's created his own logo for their store, and he's wearing custom underwear, and that's about it, that has their parody logo on it to go pick up the Legos. So
look at his name.
Before we
Reckless Ben.
It's really a perfect name for him. So
he's getting, by the way, Jonas, he's getting millions of views.
Well, this is right now the biggest story on X, which I would assume between YouTube and X and the amount of views that he's getting on. I think the part one is maybe 2 hours long. It's a very long video, and then part two is 40, 50 minutes. He knows he's got a part three coming. And if this goes to court, if this actually goes to court, then this is going to be something that he'll be able to make content off of it for years. So the financial incentive for him is also going to be the biggest tool that these people use against him. But the fact that he's doing this in a way where he's trying to be mischievous, and he's really going for the court of public opinion more than actual court, I think that's probably the weakness here. But if everything that he's saying is true, or even let's say 75% accounting for entertainment purposes, I think that this company is destroyed by this YouTuber coming in and inciting everyone against them with what seems like are true claims.
So I got some questions.
Yeah.
Because I might be as stupid as the audience out there. Did the family hand over all the Lego packages to Bricks and Figs?
One of the franchisees, there was a consignment agreement for $200,000 worth of Legos. There was, I think what probably happened is all of those, or a large portion of those, were sold at a time when there were a bunch of bills due, or who cares what they spent it on, but they spent all of that money with the intention of paying that person later. And then when the franchise changed hands, probably for financial reasons, not because they kicked them out of the franchise program or whatever, Bricks and Minifigs corporate said, "Oh, well, we're taking over the consignment agreement." By the way, the consignment agreements are totally kosher as far as all that's concerned.
So money did not flow to the original owners of the packages that were provided to Bricks and Minifigs. By the way, I looked up what the heck that meant. And I am very disappointed that neither of you told the audience just exactly what Bricks and Minifigs means. Do you want me to explain it?
Paul, is it possible to do so in a way that will stay on YouTube?
I will.
Okay. Go for
Bricks are the brick parts of Lego that we are very familiar with, and mini figures. So minifigs is the contraction of the guys,
I was hoping it was a reference to Lincoln Logs. I think there needs to be a resurgence in the Lincoln Logs.
So it's apparently the figures are just as important as the bricks in the world of Lego. So
there you go.
I needed to know.
So, Kara, I'd like to go.
There's a business in it. There's a franchise in Winnipeg. Like, for crying out loud, there's a business.
You gotta go.
Legos are probably pound per pound worth more than gold in some.
I have
instances. It's ridiculous.
60-year-old Legos from original sets in my basement.
Hey, Paul, would you like to be friends forever?
Yeah, if there's Star Wars on any of them, then you've probably got
they're
something that's
just
worth something.
the old sets, right?
So that's what I want to go to Kara with, though. Kara, this story goes nowhere, unfortunately, if it's just an elderly man who gets ripped off by a company. That happens all the time, and it goes into litigation and, the lawsuits. You get the idea. But that doesn't arrive on YouTube. What made this take off, I think, like wildfire is you have so many pop culture, circles of interest that play around with this and grow it into a huge thing. So it's Lego, it's Star Wars, right?
Swapping.
And then, right, exactly. And Paul, also the Midwest safety stuff, like the law enforcement YouTube channels are exploding. So the body cam footage is, that's YouTube gold. All this stuff comes together. There are a lot of people out there who need big YouTubers to come rolling into town, it seems like. It seems like that some folks out there have gotten comfortable with bullying and not being kind. Kara, I think this could turn into something bigger than Legos, and I hope it does.
I hope so too. I mean, we're in the age of accountability whenever it comes to the internet. And you're seeing it not just on usually what you're seeing is like, oh, they said this on the internet, whatever years ago, but now you're actually seeing it like people are holding others accountable, or at least calling people on their crap in real life as well. And I think that's what a lot of these YouTuber journalists are doing, is they're having the guts to go and be like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. What are you going to do to fix this? And if you don't fix this, we're going to make a stink about it.
Right. You're going to become a star in a way that you never thought you're going to be. I mean, for the people out there who are acting poorly, and we don't know if everybody is in these videos, but for the people who are acting poorly, you're going to be seen by millions of people now. And that changes behavior. So we shall see. It may be the end of some of these businesses after this, and the towns are going to be under all kinds of scrutiny. And who could have ever foreseen?
So who swatted the YouTuber?
Jonas, do we know that one yet on who tried that one?
There's this gets complicated. There's an accusation out there. Again, I'm trying to provide some cover here, that people associated with Bricks and Minifigs have been calling as these people or pretending to be Ben Schneider and the people that work with him and making threats and things like that. And I think that there's been an accusation from those people that there were drugs in the vehicle.
Oh,
of course, that has not borne out, because if there were, no, I don't know, they didn't find anything. So, and they tested negative if they did a drug test. That would be all over the news right now if he actually did have drugs in his system.
But that's not got nothing to do with the main story. And I have to say, I am a complete addict to body cam video.
Me too, Paul. What's your fave? What's your go-to?
Oh, I like the women who are the sovereign citizens.
Female sovereign citizens?
Yeah, those are my favorite, where they have plates that are reproduced on a Xerox machine, stuck on the back of their car, and they go, what I do? What I do? And there's like 5-10 minutes of what I do, and the cop going, I'm going to break the window. I'm going to break the window. I'm going to break the window.
Guess what? The window always breaks, ladies and gentlemen. The window always breaks.